Welcome back to I Did This Instead of Killing Myself, a stand-up comedy and lifestyle podcast I host out of my apartment. My name is David Bakker. It's the week of February 21st, 2022. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had a good Valentine's Day. And I am I'm excited every week. I say that every week. I'm excited about the guest. But I'm especially excited about today's guest because our guest today is an actor, not a stand-up comedian, and he's a good friend of mine. I don't know if I would say good friend, pretty good friend. Jake Kelley. This dude is he's an actor. Now, when somebody says they're an actor, especially if they're young, you might think, okay, like you're gonna be an actor, really? You really want to be an actor? You want to be a professional football player? You want to be an astronaut? You know, a lot of people try to do this. A lot of people pay lip service to it and may or may not be successful. Jake's killing it. Jake Kelley is, like I said, he's a friend of mine. I met him in Atlanta when he was a bartender. And at that time, he had only just started acting, but he is now having some major success. The most prominent role that he's known for is he's in The Righteous Gemstones, the HBO show on streaming now. Season 2 just started, starring Danny McBride, John Goodman, and many others. The HBO. It is so cool to see my buddy doing his thing on the big screen, and very excited about that. So I want to play for you a clip. This is the clip that he is featured in Season 2, Episode 1 on The Righteous Gemstones. He is the Maniac Kid. So here it is. Jake Kelley in The Righteous Gemstones. The Maniac Kid, dude. Oh my gosh, he's an animal. How cool was that? Dude, body slamming people and shit. So that's Jake Kelley. I have seen the first few episodes of season 2. He basically plays John Goodman's character as in a flashback scene, and there's some crazy stuff in there. So yeah, Jake Kelley on the big screen. Started as a bartender in Buckhead and in Atlanta, and he's still in school. He's still a young actor, still hustling. But we had a great interview. We talked about acting. We talked about his start in acting and his story. We talked about the differences between stand-up and improv and acting and kind of how those things overlap. And we talked about a lot more too. But the biggest thing, man, is that really inspires me and hopefully other people is like, anything could happen. Anything could happen. So don't talk yourself out of doing something that you love to do, because even if you feel stupid when you start, or like you would with anything, you could be on HBO with freaking Danny McBride and body slamming people and breaking people's thumbs. Spoiler alert. There's some of that. All right. I hope you enjoy my interview with Jake. Anyway, before we get into the interview, though, here's what's going on this week in local comedy. So we're back to our usual slate of open mics starting tonight at Coffee Underground, hosted by No Expectations Comedy and Craig Holcomb, starting at 7 o'clock. Please get there a little early to sign up. After that, Habiba's Mediterranean Restaurant. I'm going to try and get Dante to make sure we do this. That is going to be at 8:30, most likely, or 8:30, or as Coffee Underground finishes. Habiba's Mediterranean Restaurant, another open mic. Tuesday, Art Bar in Columbia, hosted by Patrick Fowler. That mic starts at 8:30. Again, that's a drive, so be sure to DM Patrick Fowler if you want a spot. No guarantees there. But I do like to mention it in case Greenville comics want to go down there. Wednesday at the Radio Room, hosted by Adam Schulte. Show starts at 8 o'clock. It's a free show. Get there early to sign up or DM Adam. Thursday, Jokes Out Loud Comedy Show, hosted by Brandon Rainwater. That is an 8 o'clock show, $10 cover. This Saturday, we have a show at the Flat, hosted by Stonegrown, Adam Schulte. That's starting at 8 p.m., $5 cover. This feature show will be David Zasloff will be performing, Chris Wilson, Amelia Nelson, and Carrie Goff coming down from Asheville. So check that show out. And our celebrity comic at the Comedy Zone is Brent Pella. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Ben Pella. He's a stand-up comedian from L.A. He's got a ton of funny videos online. I don't know him that well, but I did just watch one of his parody videos about how the Grinch took Molly and mushrooms. Oh my gosh, it's hysterical. So if you want to go out to Comedy Zone this coming weekend, I'm sure his stand-up's going to be hilarious. So there's 2 shows on Friday at 7 and 9, 2 shows on Saturday at 6 and 9, and 1 show on Sunday at 7 p.m. Tickets available at greenvillecomedyzone.com. All right, that's it for local comedy. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you enjoy my interview with Jake. Here it is. Jake, what's up, dude?
Mr. Bakker, how are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Of course. Sorry I'm a few minutes late there on you.
No worries, bro. We're already recording.
Okay, good deal, man. Good deal. I'm dude, appreciate you asking me to be. This is awesome. I'm been envious of what you've done, man, since you've moved out of Atlanta. So it's really cool to kind of officially be a part of it now.
Dude, yeah, and you don't have to be formal with it at all. Dude, I love you, bro. I can't remember the last time I saw you.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Your hair was much shorter, that's for sure.
Yeah. You look about the same. How old are you?
I will be 28 in 2 weeks.
28.
Yes, sir.
You
getting up there in the 30s.
Do you know how young of an actor you can play, or how young of a character you can play? Don't they say that? Like you could probably still play a high school, I bet.
Yeah. I still read for high schoolers a pretty good bit. They give you the range, you're never, as an actor, you're never supposed to say, I'm this age, because then they're like, oh, well, we don't want you to play that or this. Instead,
wait, should we edit that out then? We could bleep out.
Yeah, cut that out there. I'm not 28, bro. I'm actually 19, but they give you a range. So I'm fortunate I have a pretty good range that I can still, read for high schoolers. So, which is a good thing, I guess.
Who gives you the range? Is it your agent who puts you out there for these roles?
Yeah, it's a little bit left up to you, but of course, that's something that they will kind of say, that's not right. Like, this is a little more of what you should be in. So, but it's always kind of been something that I've kind of determined, and I adjust, as I go. But as you said, it hasn't adjusted very much. I mean, this doesn't change here. No facial hair coming in. But.
Dude, yeah, this is so awesome. So I do an intro before these episodes, and I'll brag about you like crazy. But I just want to say, I'm super pumped and proud of you.
Thank you,
because I met you probably I don't know, maybe 2017, which is around 5 years ago, and I don't know how involved into the acting thing you were, but to come from back then to now having a major part on The Righteous Gemstones, HBO, the HBO with Danny McBride, John Goodman, Adam Devine. That is just so cool, dude. And
man, it was a dream come true, David. Yeah, as you know that. And that's you saying that, man. In 2017, it was very much kind of just getting my feet wet in it, and it was a long process for sure. But it was something I've never regretted doing. I think moving to Atlanta was probably the best decision I've ever made. But Yes, to be mentioned with those people is incredible in itself, man. It's nuts, and working with them was a dream, dude. It's like they're my type of comedy, man. I think they're your type of comedy as well, and that's why you
No,
and I always got along, you know.
absolutely.
But yeah, man, it was awesome. It was really cool. It was really
So
cool.
going back, because I moved to Atlanta in 2016, so it might have even been then, but that was around 5 years ago. So you're in your early 20s. And I met you as a bartender. You're a bartender at Big
Yes,
Sky.
sir.
And
My number one customer right here.
what's that?
You're my number one customer, man.
Dude, I know. I thought
In
of that.
fact,
Like, it's not exactly flattering, like why I like I was just, I could have been diagnosed as a clinical alcoholic, just a bar regular at Big Sky. Me and Chris Hutchinson, shout out to him.
that's right.
We ended up being
Mr.
bar regular.
Hutch.
And yeah, so you were we just got to know each other through that. But that was when you had just started moving to it, or just started getting involved in acting, and it just moved to Atlanta. So I mean, you want to take me through that, like how you started acting and
Yeah,
why
man.
you
Yeah.
felt called
So,
into that?
first off, you and I moved to Atlanta at the same time. I didn't know you were 2016 as well. So that was probably the year you and I ended up crossing paths. But man, it was quite the journey. And this is something I don't get to talk about very much. So this is I'm glad you asked that. But starting out, man, I was 21 years old, and I was in Tuscaloosa. I just failed out of the University of Alabama, and it's kind of
You
lost,
failed
man.
out.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They kicked me out. They said you're not coming back to try this again. It's not working out for you.
What was it? You just school wasn't for you?
It wasn't for me. It never has been, dude. And I hate that. I really do. That's something that I don't take pride in. I just never could hone in. I think it was the fact that I didn't really have direction in what I wanted to do. And that kind of made it difficult for me to really focus and have a intent with what
What
I was
did you
doing.
try to major in? What did you like guess that you thought you'd want?
Business. I was,
Business.
hey, let's,
Yeah, dude.
like let's
That's what
do
everybody
as
picks when you
general
don't know
as
what to do.
possible. Right, exactly, man. And even just going to Alabama in itself showed the lack of direction I had, because there were so many other options out there, and that was just all I knew. So it was just like, let's go to
Bama
Alabama.
seemed cool for like partying and girls and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't do the fraternity route, which that kind of I lacked on a little bit of that aspect, but that's kind of where bartending saved me. That kind of got me out of my comfort zone, allowed me to meet people. But yeah, man, after school, I remained in Tuscaloosa, and I was working a couple of jobs, a construction job during the day and bartending at night. And man, so long story short, a buddy of mine who was working a construction job with me.
This is in Atlanta, right?
This was in Tuscaloosa.
Tuscaloosa first. Okay.
Yeah, so this is in Tuscaloosa, and we're driving. Him and I grew up together in Birmingham, and he was out of school at the same time. So we one weekend we're driving back to Birmingham just to go home for the weekend. And going down the interstate, we come across a car that's just spiraling, flipping. And it's going probably 70 miles per hour, flipping forward. So we pull over.
Like a car accident? Like this car is flipping and
just this car. It's just an individual, no other cars involved, just this car. Fortunately, it wasn't just spiraling into other vehicles. It was, fairly clear road. So we pull over, we hop the median. This woman's inside, just totally just a wreck. And fortunately she had her seatbelt on and everything, and she was okay, but cut her out, got her out of the car. And then we kind of just got back to our car. We're kind of bloodied up from the glass, just like adrenaline running. And we looked at each other and we said, let's be firefighters. And that was just like, it was that kind of route of just like, we have no clue what we want to do. Like, what's the next thing that could, be on our plate?
Dude, that's cool.
It was a cool moment. It was something I'll never forget. Him and I growing up together. It was cool.
So you decided at that moment, because of that woman, like saving a woman's life, essentially, or potentially,
right?
You wanted to be.
Man, that's exactly what it was. And if you knew the Barrett Gossett, I gave him a shout out as well. If you knew the type of person he was, that was just very us. Like I'm talking. We'd go into lunch in high school, and he would just look at me and say, "Hey, like I think I'm gonna be a weatherman." Just like that type of stuff. We just never knew what we wanted to do. So it made sense for us in that moment to kind of just look at each other and be like, we could do this for a living. Let's be firefighters.
Okay.
So for the next couple of months, we pursued that, and we were in school for it. We were, running the obstacle courses, doing all this training and whatnot. And then it came down to the drug tests, and neither of us were prepared for that. So that was the
came
end
down
of
to what? The
firefighting.
drug test?
Yeah. Yeah. Which, man, that was something, of course, we were aware of. Like, hey, this is here. Like, let's plan for this. Let's lay off the green for a while, and we did. And then it got to about a week before, and it's kind of the same situation, but the opposite. We just kind of looked at each other and we were like, do we really want to do this for the rest of our lives?
Right.
And we didn't. We didn't. So we toked up that night, and I just remember calling my dad the next day and saying, hey, I'm not going to be a firefighter. I've never heard him so relieved. I've never heard him so relieved as when I told him that.
So he thought that was a mistake.
He thought that was a huge mistake. Yeah. But I mean, opposite of that, I've never heard him so angry as when I told him I wanted to be an actor about 6 months after that. So yeah, man, life's journey.
Right.
But to get to that, man, I ended up doing some featured extra work on a football film. And as soon as I got to set, I was out there for about 2.5 months.
How did you get that, by the way? How'd you hear about that?
So I was in Tuscaloosa, man, and I was just hanging out with my cousin and his girlfriend. And his girlfriend kind of knew the situation I was in, and she understood my sports past, and she just recommended. She said, "Hey, they're filming this movie in Birmingham, and they're looking for football players. And it paid better than anything I was doing at the time. So I figured, why not? And I think it's pretty cool that my first film experience was in Birmingham, my hometown. I've always thought that was, something that was kind of special to me, and maybe part of the reason why I kind of fell in love with it. But the lead actor in that film was called Woodlawn. Lead actor was a guy named Caleb Castile, who was also from Birmingham. And he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. And Caleb, him and I would watch in his trailer. We'd watch Alabama football games, during filming and whatnot. And it was just such a cool experience. And I just fell in love with the whole thing.
That's a great movie, Woodlawn.
Yeah, it's a good one, man.
I want to make sure I'm thinking of the right thing. I'm pulling it up on my phone right now.
Yeah, it was kind of a Christian-based football film. But
yes.
The football was phenomenal. The football was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, that was 21-year-old me running around playing the high school football player.
Can you pick yourself out in that movie?
Yeah, there's a couple of moments, and it's so funny, man. Because back, big deal, and being like, oh, there he is, and then now it's just like I just striving for so much more. It's just really funny, but
yeah,
man,
that
was a good experience here. But I fell in love with it. And that's
so you fell in love with it by being on set and seeing like just how movies are made. It's being a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole process, man. I loved film growing up, and I feel like you being an entertainer, I feel like you had something that you knew you loved, but you weren't really like considering it as an option, a career choice. It just you knew you had a love for it and a passion for it. But as soon as you really think about it and you take a step back and say, maybe I can do this, things kind of change in your mind. So, and that's exactly what happened. It was cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel similarly, and I'm even newer to any of this than you are to acting, like to stand up or anything else. But yeah, I do feel similarly in terms of loving something for its own sake, consuming the content or just being around it. Like the television show Seinfeld, I worshipped since elementary school, really.
Oh yeah.
And just quoting funny movies or quoting funny things or being around movies. I actually love movies as well. Like I think you do. And you don't really think of it as a job.
No.
And you kind of are even nervous to say that out loud. I mean, did you feel nervous even saying that out loud? Like, me, Jake, I want to be an actor. Does that
absolutely.
Did you feel insecure and silly about even admitting that to the world?
100%, man. And that was a hard thing to do. Even in my first couple of years here, it was really challenging to, say that to people. And probably, man, when you and I met, especially because I was so young when I was here, it was always like, I'm an aspiring actor, and you hear that so often from people who are really chasing it and pursuing it full time. You're an actor, and I don't, what level? Hey, who knows? Maybe you've done a couple student films. Maybe you're a lead in a feature, and obviously that would qualify you as an actor. But regardless, that's just something you got to wear. If it's something you want to do, then you need to own it and not, kind of beat around the bush with it. So that's why I applaud you, man, because you have fully kind of just dove into this world, and now you're doing it, and I'm so proud of you for that. I think that's incredible, man. I think that's incredible.
I appreciate it, man. I yeah, I think it takes a lot for anybody to take that first step, because you're going to be bad at anything when you start something.
Mhm.
Um, and
Mhm.
and I think, I think it is a good signal too. Like if you are nervous and have a ton of anxiety about admitting it, it might, um to me, that's kind of a signal that it's a real desire and it's something that you really should be doing. Like you take it seriously. Because there are people who love to tell people they're actors,
Right.
or who
Right.
are who love to say they do stand up, and the reason
Yeah.
they love it is because they want to put a picture up on Facebook, and they want,
Right.
and that's not really how I feel. Like I don't like the self promotion. Like I get a lot of anxiety about
Mhm.
that kind of thing. But like, to me, the real part of it is like the actual doing of it, and are you working at it, and are you actually taking it seriously.
I agree.
And then
I
eventually
agree,
the
man. And
anxiety
that,
starts to get less and less, I think.
yes.
um
Yeah, absolutely. And you start to own it a little bit. And I think you and I have the same, we get the same feeling from when we do perform. It's very self-fulfilling. And that's, that's something that I think, I don't want to speak for you at all, but that's something I was chasing for a long time and I didn't know where I was going to find it. And, fortunately I was able to find it in acting. And that's been a really cool discovery for me over the
so
years.
so when you discovered that you loved it, I mean, did it just kind of uh fall into place in terms of like, it sounds like in school it was probably hard for you to
Mhm.
focus and just dial in and really work hard at it, because it's like, I don't give a shit about school, this isn't my thing. But with
Right.
acting, do you find yourself like, I can commit everything into acting, like the work ethic, the habits you have to develop, the talent?
Absolutely. Even so much to the point that I'm back in school, David. I'm back in school. So I'm now at SCAD, in the film and television program. And it's crazy the difference because I know what I want to do. And it's just like, yeah, like I want to be here, and that's a cool feeling for me because I never experienced that with school. I
Yeah.
had so many friends who were just so intelligent and they were just knocking out these grades and just killing it. And they had a real work ethic in school. And I just never had that. And now I feel like I really do. But yes, that's something I really enjoy is the work of the actor and building characters and just reading scripts to understand where writers are coming from. And why is this character here? What does this scene mean? I really enjoy that part of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So how's SCAD going?
absolutely.
So what year are you at SCAD?
So I just started. Yeah, I just started, man. So it's going to be interesting trying to, work around auditions and hopefully start booking more. But they're pretty
Dude, you can kind
flexible.
of
Like
walk in
all,
there with like, you know, puffed out chest and a little swagger. Like
I'm pretty
another
sure I'm the
acting.
oldest one in all my classes.
Oh, who gives, you look 22, so who cares?
Yeah, they don't have to know that. They don't have to know that.
Like, you might have recognized me, Righteous Gemstone
Nobody does.
season
Nobody
three,
does, David. It's
bitches.
the coolest thing in the world, man. Nobody does. I love that. I love that though. Like I was out the other night with a friend and she had some college friends over and we're sitting there and we're all just drinking about to go out, but we're just hanging out and they're just talking about shows they've been watching. And one of them brought up, they're like, "Have you all seen the new season of Righteous Gemstones?" And they were all like, "Yeah, like it's kick ass, like I'm just like loving it." And I was just like, "Of course!" And they saw me for 5 minutes. None of these people know who I am. Like they don't
Did you tell
remember.
him? Did you tell him you were in it or no?
I did not. I love that the fact that they had no clue who I was. So I didn't. Sam, who hosted the party, overheard the conversation. She, of course, was just like, "Oh, Jake, you were in Righteous Gemstones," and then they
That's
were like,
great.
character do you play? And like you had to look it up to confirm it and everything. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's
It was
nice you
funny.
didn't have to be the one to tell him that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, man. I think that's something that I thought was really cool. That people can watch it and the next day they're not going to recognize me, man. But they
yeah.
enjoyed it. That's all that matters for sure.
Yeah, so take me back to like, you mentioned something earlier about how you told your dad that you wanted to be an actor and that he like flipped out and thought that was a bad idea.
Yeah, well, my dad, man, he's the best dude in the world, literally the best dude in the world, and I could take that back to my childhood and just things he did that I probably didn't recognize at the time of how good of deeds they were. But kind of growing up to become my own man, I understand now like some of the sacrifices he made. But just to touch on that before I bash on him for killing his son for career decisions. Yeah, he the first thing he said, and in fact, it was my sister who told him, Jake's going to be an actor, because I was terrified to tell him. Like, that's just, you're terrified to tell him. And he said verbatim to her, I wish I could be an actor, or something like that. Kind of like a smart ass comment. Like, yeah, like I want to be an actor too. Like, good luck with
like I want to be an astronaut. That'd be great.
Yes, exactly. Precisely. That's a great example. Like,
yeah.
Like basically looking at me like I'm a child, which I was, man, 22 years old. I was kind of shooting for the stars, but it's something that I was truly passionate about. And I understood why people did not necessarily believe that at the time. Because I had been, in so many different directions to that point. So I got it. I understood. It was something for me. It was kind of like, hey, like, let's prove this to myself first. And then let's, kind of show them what, you actually do love and you're passionate about this. And
you have a chip on your shoulder?
Yeah, I did. And I think, David, actually, I want to say, you actually commented on this, and you and I spoke about Whole World Improv. That was really the first time that my parents were able to come and watch me do what I love. So that was a special night for me, man. And James Mack, I had a couple of the guys come out, and that was really cool for me. Both my partners came. But that was a special night for me, man. They came over to Atlanta, and it was to the point where I could hear my dad laughing in the audience during the show. And it was a packed house too. So, I mean, it was a really, really special night for me. And I think he, at that point, and that was just a few years ago, that was probably 2019. I think that was when he really understood, like, okay, maybe this is something that, he could do for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So that was a cool moment for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. James Mack. I'm trying to get him to try stand-up.
Me and you both, man, but you're going to be the guy who has to do it, because you've been on the stage, man.
Well, he's going to be the guy that has to do it.
True. Very true. Very true.
If he watches this, just call him a pussy. I mean, like, I don't know, but
we can't call him a pussy until he gets up there, James. Which I know he will, man. I know he will. And I know he's seeing what you're doing, and he's envious of that. James he's not the type of dude to just sit by the wayside. He's got to get up there, man. Because I think he would love it. I think he would love it.
It takes a lot for anybody to get on stage the first time. I think I had to like hit a bottom in several ways before I was like actually gonna do it. Procrastination's real easy when it comes to something like that, because you dread the idea of it, and you're gonna be horrible when you start. So it's like,
man, what I do is a collaboration, David. It's a collaboration between a bunch of people that you're kind of trusting and you're in the same mindset with. What you do, I applaud. Because it's essentially a one-man act. It is a one-man act. It's equivalent to me getting up on a stage and having an entire stage production just by myself, and that is terrifying to me. So
well, see, I don't do improv, so that's scary to me. So I wasn't aware of how much you did improv. So your improv stuff, are you regularly participating in that and performing improv in Atlanta?
That was something I did for probably about a 12-month period before COVID hit, and I have not gotten back into it since COVID, but I miss it. I miss it dearly. I still regularly go up to some of their shows because they still have shows on the weekends. Thursday through Saturday at Whole World, and they're fantastic, man. The talent up there is they're hilarious.
Yeah. So it's Atlanta, comedy improv.
Yeah.
My understanding of improv, and I haven't been to a ton of shows, but Second City in Chicago is one I'm aware of that. And then the other thing I think of is the Office episode where Michael Scott goes to his improv class. I don't know if you've seen that one, and he's just a disaster. Yeah, with Michael Scott. He introduces a gun to every scenario and just fucks up every scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, take me through your improv experience. How did that help you develop as like an actor? And do you love like live acting as well as I guess acting for screen?
I do, man. That's something that that's grown on me, because when I first moved here, just being so obsessed with cinema and film, it was like, oh, I'll never do a stage production. I'll never do theater. Now I look at actors who have done theater, and I look at them as well-trained actors. That's how I consider that. And that's something that I lack on my resume. So it's something I definitely want to do, and then something I need to start looking into. Obviously, it's not huge in Atlanta, but it's definitely here. So Whole World was that kind of first opportunity for me to get on a stage and do a live performance. And it's a rush, man. It is such a rush. And you kind of feed off those nerves. I know that's something you can relate to. You just got to feed off those nerves. Understand they're going to be there. accept them, and then just go with the flow.
Dude, I can relate, but believe it or not, improv sounds way more horrifying to me than stand up, because I know stand up now, but I kind of know what I'm going to say ahead of time.
Yeah.
But like pure improv is improvisation, even though you have your scene partners to work off of, and you know, like, well, they can help save me if it's going a wrong. But like, dude, you're off totally, like on a limb, and that scares me. Maybe because like I've never done it.
Have you ever been to an improv show?
Yes, I have been to a few. They have improv here. There's a real small theater downtown Greenville where they do improv shows as well as stand up. But
same thought. The reason why I asked that, and I imagine you probably do have a couple there in Greenville, but the reason why I asked that was because I kind of had the same thought before I started going to the shows. And once I was going to the shows, it wasn't like, oh, this is something I could, definitely do. It was just like, if they're up there doing this, like I want to give it a try. And I'm a big, advocate of overcoming fears in this industry. And that's actors all the time. They talk about like, I want to do something that scares me. That's such a real thing. That is such a real thing. It challenges you. It brings the best out of you. And I think that's what I got with improv. And it's something that I've taken with all my scene work. And anytime I'm on camera, I try to make it my own. And improv gave me the confidence to do that.
Sure.
So it's been really good for me.
Yeah, doing what scares you, I think is I think that's a good instinct to follow. Yeah. Not just for art, but for anything in life. But with stand-up comedy, for sure, I feel that because the act is scary when you first are working out any new idea. But then if you find several ideas that are working and you have them well structured, the safe thing to do would be to continue to perform a version of that. Right. But you have to continue to force yourself to try new stuff and risk failure. Like, unless you're staying, like if you're just always playing it safe, doing the same, you're not going to improve. You should try the crazy shit you're really scared to try, and then just say screw it, or like go to a room that scares you, like go to an all black room, where there's all black audiences, like totally different vibe and energy, right? Versus, maybe predominantly white audience, or just a general room, or do a mic where there's like 5 people and they're looking at you like, who the fuck, like what is this? Like, just put yourself in every scenario, right? And go at the fear. Don't run away from it, because that's where you get better.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, get out of that comfort zone for sure.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing to do, man. It's a hard thing to do. And I think, that was, for the first few years here, that was such a thing that that was my excuse, was I'm fear failure. Like I'm afraid I will dive so deep into this and it's not going to work out. And that was what I was really scared of. But that's something I also tell people now is, and as long as you are doing everything in your power to, go chase something, then you're not going to fail.
Did you ever think about quitting?
I still think about quitting. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It always, it's a stressful life. It really is. It's, it's something that I'm gonna look back on hopefully soon and laugh at. But it's just, even after Gemstones, it's just like, what's next? And that's like the crazy part about this industry, is it's always what's next. And I understand people have watched the show, and when they do it, they're always like, oh, that was incredible. Like, that was so cool seeing you in that. What are you working on now? And it's just like, sometimes you don't have an answer for that, Right. So, but fortunately, I came across 2 guys a few years ago, Mavro Diamante and Harrison Chandler, who are my business partners. We own a video production company.
What's the name of it?
Steal the Sun Studios. Steal the Sun, yeah, STEAL. So we're a development studio. So essentially, we develop series, feature films, and we attempt to sell them to networks, streaming services and whatnot. And I'm in love with that aspect of it. And that's actually what got me into school. And it's got me thinking about the other side of the camera, the directing, the producing, the writing. So that's something that, I'm really trying to run with and pursue all avenues versus just that tunnel vision actor, which I applaud people for doing, man, because it's tough. It's really tough.
What's so cool that like in 2022, you have the ability to do that. Like, you don't have to be at the mercy of waiting for the phone to ring. You can develop yourself as a producer. Like, I don't know all the words you're supposed to say, but producer, director, production
Mhm.
company,
Yeah,
like you can create a lot of that stuff and just get started. Like, you don't have to wait for somebody to give you work. You can create the work.
absolutely, man. And that's something. I mean, we started this in 2018. And I mean, our films, it's just, they were just terrible, man. Just shitty films. You know, something we're so excited about. Hey, I can't wait till you see this. And then we see it and we're like, no one will ever see this. Like this will never be seen again. But
That's great though, dude. You saw my shitty things I made during the pandemic, or the old ones, or
I
like,
love this stuff. You always make me laugh, but you see the improvement. And
yeah,
yeah, I saw the improvement in your stuff. Absolutely. You know,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's,
you
that's
start
the
anything
beauty of it.
badly, and I'm sure yours weren't, as bad as you're saying, but also
Right.
you can take it to such a better level. So
Right. You have to fail, man. You have to fail. That's the only way to grow. And it's a tough thing to accept, but you just have to. You have to try, you have to fail, and then, figure out where you messed up, where you fucked up, and make changes.
mhm.
So, and that's kind of the beauty of it.
Do you enjoy writing?
I do. It's famous saying with writing is I hate writing, but I love to have written. And
Yes.
that is so true, man. It's so true. It's so fulfilling when you finish something, but during the writing process, it is just a son of a bitch. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just hard, man. It's very time consuming. But you know what I really enjoy is the research aspect of writing. I love looking into stuff that I'm interested in, but kind of unfamiliar with,
Right.
and really just diving into what I maybe want to write about. I love
So,
that.
so give me an example. Like, so if you're writing a character and this
Mhm.
character has a job,
Right.
let's say he's like an accountant or something. If you really want to make that character come to life, you have to know
Mhm.
everything about, even something as
Absolutely.
boring as that. Like, what is it like? Meaning, like, which
Absolutely.
company is it? What is he
And
likely to have?
something, man, we can use a personal example. Like if I was writing about a comedian, a stand-up comedian, that I love the aspect of just reading books on comedians. Hey, David, you have a time, you and I can speak about, what kind of struggles you may go through,
Yeah,
what you love about this, and just really getting in the mind of a comedian. You know what I mean? And then
sure.
understanding their perspective in order to be able to write accurately about, their life.
Hmm.
And I enjoy that, man. I really do. It's interesting to me and informative. That's kind of been my education through this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Have you written any scripts?
Yeah, yeah. So I've got I had a short film called Perception. It was a story that was pretty close to me. Kind of in ways about my family, who I love very much. But
What did
it
it
was
do about your
perfect. So
family?
it's kind of based on my
Based
family.
on your family.
So Perception is a story about a daughter, and she's kind of teaching her mom to be more open-minded in terms of how she views the world.
How does the
Um,
mom view the world?
she's not overly pleased with her daughter dating a black guy, and that's
Okay.
something. Yeah. So and my family is incredibly open to that now, and that's been really cool to see,
Hmm.
and it was a learning curve for sure, and that's just the times, and it's been cool to see. But that was something I wrote about, and it was personal to me, and I think they really enjoyed the film also.
Hmm.
My family really enjoyed it, and it got accepted to a couple festivals around the country, so that was really cool for us and special for us. But yeah, man, as far as like I've developed a couple of concepts for TV series,
Hmm.
and they're ones that I'm really excited about, and I think they have legs in my mind always. But yeah, putting pen to paper is just a different beast.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can you share anything about that or no?
What's that?
The uh
Those
the the ideas for those series?
Yeah, man. A couple of them I cannot because they are actually a lot of them are my partner's ideas that are like literally in development stages.
Yeah,
But
totally. And please,
one,
this is just me being curious. So if there's
absolutely,
any
absolutely, man.
if there's
No,
any issue,
one
no
I'm
worries.
really excited about, and I think this is probably something you're familiar with my past. I have a bit of a gambling addiction. I love me some sports gambling, man. So that was something I developed in Tuscaloosa at Alabama, and being really familiar with the whole process of underground gambling, that's something that you really, as filmmakers, that's something you strive to do, is to introduce a world that hasn't been seen on camera before. For example, Yellowstone is huge right now.
Yeah.
Yellowstone, of course, you know, Westerns and whatnot has been made, but Yellowstone is very specific, and that's a world that hasn't been seen. And Taylor Sheridan, the writer of that, does such a good job of creating that world
Yep.
and throwing you in it. And you can think of any example of your favorite show, of your favorite movie, and they're just worlds that, you know, have not been discovered before. And that's how I feel about the underground bookmaking, the underground gambling. It hasn't been done. You
Yeah.
know, you've seen plenty of movies that take place in casinos, but where's the gritty stuff where, you know, people are getting their legs beaten in
Yeah.
because, you know, the college kids can't pay a bookie.
Right.
And that's something I'm really kind of diving into right now. And I'm studying a couple different shows to kind of mend some gaps in the story. But yeah, so my working title is The Bookmaker.
The
essentially.
Bookmaker.
So think of it as a Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Very, you know, family type guy. You know, he's down to earth, kind of struggling to get through the day to day. And then he discovers this, you know, different side of himself that, you know, really kind of takes off and takes over. And then for good, better or for worse.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really compelling story arc. Breaking Bad is probably my favorite show of all time.
I figured you'd probably seen that one.
What's that?
I figured you'd probably seen that one. So that was a good reference there for me.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad was fantastic, man.
Right. But, you know, the arc of Walter White,
Mhm.
kind of having a boring, conventional life and being very, very much dead inside until he gets the terminal illness diagnosis. And then he becomes alive by becoming a drug kingpin. Maybe like your character's gambling, but there's also a real darkness and danger to that exploration.
But he also feeds off of it.
But he also,
that's the energy. That's what he gets that energy from. And I think that's why that show is such a good comparison for it.
Yeah. And the tension is really fascinating to watch play out.
Yeah, man. David, that's something, man. There was a documentary that recently released on Netflix. It was a docuseries called Bad Sport. And
Bad Sport.
Yes. Go check out the first episode. If you love it enough, keep watching them because they all are very interesting. But the first episode really kind of dives into the illegal gambling world, and it'll give you a great idea of kind of where I'll be coming from in that perspective. But it is fascinating. Man.
Okay, so illegal gambling, like on what types of events, like sports, anything, like in a state where it's illegal, it has to take a certain form to be done. So this is just cash-based gambling.
Right. Yeah.
Completely non-regulated.
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And it's interesting, man. And another thing I've enjoyed researching, and you read about people getting busted for it, and it's so interesting. There was a kid who got busted, a college student who got busted in Virginia, I believe. And he didn't have a huge book. I believe when they busted him, you know, of course, is a good amount of money. He had $20,000 on him. But it was the details of his book. Brian Urlacher's brother, who was the sheriff of the town, was, you know, a part of his book. Oh, I'm sorry, he was the mayor of the town. He was the mayor of the town, and he's involved in this college student's illegal book. And it's just like, it's just so crazy, man. All these different aspects of, you know, who can be involved, how involved are they? You know, that's something that I've always found so interesting about gambling, illegal gambling specifically. But it's a world that I'm like gambling.
It's like this is not an accurate or direct comparison, but it reminds me of Epstein's Island and like who was on the flight logs. All these planes, like this politician was there. This politician was there. Oh my gosh, look at these dark secrets.
Yep.
I'm not comparing pedophilia to gambling, but
in ways they definitely have their negatives.
Dark.
Yeah, that's kind of the only thing I'm going to take out of this is my gambling. I'm potentially going to write a series out of it, so that'll be a positive or a negative that turned into a positive, hopefully. But yeah, man, it's cool now because, you know, back in the day it was something that you don't want to talk about. You don't want to talk about the fact that you gamble. But now you see it everywhere, you know, ESPN, they're talking about lines. So
dude, it's getting so mainstream.
Now. It is. It's crazy. It is.
So would this be set in a like 2 decades ago time when gambling was less socially acceptable, or would it be set kind of current?
You know, it's funny you asked that because this is something that filmmakers from, you know, all over talk about, because nowadays, if you have a present day movie, you better have half the people doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of funny you asked that because, of course, for the aspect of why or when it was so big, illegal gambling, it would be based closer to about 10 years ago.
Okay.
But that's just funny you asked that because my partners and I were talking about that recently, man. It's just like anything you make today, like you better have phones involved. Otherwise, it's not that accurate.
Yeah.
But that just made me think about it when you said
It's
that.
amazing how many plots like would be like they just wouldn't exist if smartphones had existed at the time they were written.
Right.
Like basically every Seinfeld episode just wouldn't have happened because they're like, yeah, I would have just texted him.
Yeah, I would have given you a call, but yeah, exactly, man. Exactly.
Yeah. There's no conflict anymore because the phone fixed it.
Absolutely.
Which to me is boring. I have a little nostalgia for the stories of I mean, dude, I don't know if you feel this way. I guess just general question about films that you see and I don't want to be all like totally overly cynical because there are good things coming out, but I feel like there's fewer movies now. Maybe some of this is due to the pandemic, but fewer movies that I like want to go see or I'm super excited about. Like all the movies that I love feel like, they're definitely in the rear view, like 10, 20 years.
Right.
And like a good comedy I haven't seen in a while. I mean, there's good stand-up I see from individuals, but in terms of like movies,
it's sad, man. It's really sad. I mean, I feel the same way.
Like the quality's maybe a little bit lower for some reason. I don't know what it is.
It's painful, man. It's really sad. These movies can release and sometimes you don't even hear about the fact that they're released. You don't know what they are, until after they're released. And it wasn't always like that. I'm glad that we grew up and we were able to kind of see when the box office was at its peak and it meant so much. And that was the first thing people were waking up and checking in the morning was the box office and who's doing what movie's doing well. But now it's just like, man, like I think it's in ways it's bad, but it's also, it feels like more of an art now, and then people making art for themselves.
Their own stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And being satisfied with that. They don't need, the crazy dollar signs in order to feel fulfilled with that. It's just the fact that they were able to make their work and get it out to whoever may view it, whether the audience be little or small. But that is crazy, man, because growing up, that going to the theaters was such a huge part of our lives. Like, that was it, man. That was I got my first kiss in a movie theater. You know what I mean? Like,
what movie was it?
Oh man, Firewall, possibly.
Firewall,
yeah, man. I believe it was a Harrison Ford Firewall, which was a really good movie. But I didn't know that at the time.
Was it like a pack?
Yeah.
Done, or was it like you guys were making out for 2 hours?
It was a pack and done. I was a pack and done guy, man. I was a pack and done guy.
Yeah, respectable.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. I still enjoy it, and I'll go every now and then. I enjoy going to movies by myself. That's something I enjoy doing. That's not something I have a problem with doing, but it's still an escape for me every now and then. My brother is the biggest movie lover I know. So him and I, we met up over Christmas and went and saw Spider-Man together. I think that was the last one I've been to see before. But God, that was a good movie. But
yeah, that was definitely
it's a different experience now, man. About twice as much too.
Did you see the new Matrix movie?
I did.
Yeah, did you like it?
I can't understand why people were surprised that they made a modern day version of it, but
I liked it, dude.
I did too. I did too, man. People were like, just 2021. Well, that was the year it was made. So don't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, the plot was hard for me to follow. It was kind of complicated. I was like, wait, was this all a video game or
right?
Did all of this happen? And, but I don't know. I was just excited to see the characters back. And I don't know. It's the Matrix. It was cool.
That's the thing.
Like, this is sweet.
It's if you bring back a world that was so loved, years and years and years ago, it's going to be hard for me not to like it. And I feel the same way. Like just seeing those characters together and them bringing them to life again. Like that's what I love about it, man. It's all about the world for me.
And I actually thought it was good. I mean, I did
too. I mean, Keanu Reeves' action is, come on.
I mean, the first Matrix was so revolutionary in terms of the story it was telling and how cool and symbolic and
right.
I don't know. There was like some really like breakthrough symbolism of what they were doing. I mean, you can't recapture the novelty of that in this other
Right.
one. So I
Yeah.
don't know what people were expecting, but I actually like that. And I thought I was kind of in the minority there with everybody hating on it.
Yeah, same, man. So let me ask you, that's got me thinking now, and this is something I've talked about recently. What if there was one movie, series or movie that you could bring back and have remade? You know, whether it be the same actors or not, depending on the film, of course. But it's a tough question, man, because they're like you said, the '90s, the '80s, the movies were so good. They were so good.
I'm tempted to say Seinfeld,
Okay. Okay.
but you kind of can't do that. Like I wish they could still be like in their like I wish they just didn't age. Like I wish they were just
Right.
like
Right.
30 to 40 somethings forever responding to, because they really captured lightning in a bottle, I think, in terms of the chemistry of those characters.
Right.
And the stories were so like it was commenting on like the gray areas of life that people don't talk about, and then like exploiting these issues. And you kind of see that with Curb. You get modern day,
Yeah.
with Curb Your Enthusiasm. But I thought it would be cool to see how the Seinfeld cast would respond today to all of those different things.
David, I think that's really cool, man, that you can link kind of your inspiration for what you're chasing now and what you moved out there for, and to a show like that you can look at Seinfeld that had such a big influence on why I am now a stand-up comedian. I think that's the coolest thing in the world.
Well, part of that was that there was real joy in Seinfeld. Part of it, well, you know, the name of this thing. I did this instead of killing myself. I wasn't ever literally suicidal, but I was miserable not expressing myself creatively. This is like the last thing I could think of, and stand-up was like the most pure form of that.
Dude, I love the title of this show, because I think that's about as honest as you can get, man. I think that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, even if
like you tried everything else, you know.
Yeah, man. You know, like I think that's cool. That's straightforward. You know, your audience knows what they're getting off the bat. I dig that, dude. I dig that.
Yeah, I didn't think about it all like that when I first named or thought of the name with a friend of mine. We were writing it down, but I kind of think, and I don't know. I wonder if you feel the same way. If you're a creative person and you're not being creative, like there's nothing more miserable than that. It's like
100%.
you're covering up a plant from growing or something. You're just like 100%. Suffocating yourself.
Absolutely. And it's a miserable feeling.
Yeah.
100%.
So life's not that worth living if you're a creative person not being that. You'll just wither away.
Man, I think creatives they're funny people, man. We are, because
weird as hell, dude.
We are 100% in our own ways, but it's exactly what you just said. And then it's also the other aspect where maybe you are creating and you're being super productive in your field and what you're chasing, and then it's just like, you know, is this enough? Is this fulfilling the ultimate goal of, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing here? And it's just like, it's such a wrestle all the time.
Exactly. You know what example I think of when you say that like that is Dave Chappelle. Do you know the story of Chappelle's show? You've seen, like, that's what made him famous, the sketch comedy show. It was so wildly successful, and that was him doing his creative thing. I mean, he was a brilliant comic / sketch writer. Everybody loved it. It got so successful. It reached like this critical mass of like, to where I think Comedy Central was going to pay him $50 million for the next season of it. And all of a sudden, Chappelle, for whatever reason, I think it was because the corporate executives were starting to put pressure on, like, this is what we want you to do. And he said, F it. F your $50 million. I'm going to Africa. And he just went.
I love him.
Like, that's something a creative person would do. Like, they'll go against what you want them to do just because.
100%.
And, you know, if it becomes more about business and like not why you loved it in the first place, it loses the shine of why you loved it.
And I think that's something we fear too, you know, and you run away from that. And that maybe that was what happened. You know, he saw it going that route, and he went to the, you know, opposite side of the world and said, let me get away from this for a little bit. So I can come back and feel re-energized. And I get that way too, man. I'm sure you do as well. It's just sometimes you just, you know, even though it's what we love and what we have a passion for, sometimes you just need a break from it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not, you know, all who we are.
Right.
You know, there's different aspects of us that, you know, we don't necessarily get to show all the time, but You know, I dig that from him. And
Yeah.
nobody is able to make comebacks the way he is after just totally screwing something up or doing whatever the hell he wants to do.
For sure.
So many people would just be like, well, he'll never work again. Dave Chappelle,
yeah,
you're forgiven.
I like resurrection stories of people that whether they get canceled or just have some kind of catastrophe happen, then you see them come back, or they go from obscurity to like really big time roles in acting. Like Louis C.K. is my favorite comedian, or one of them, and he obviously got in trouble for whacking in front of girls, and not cool, not cool with that. But
not cool. I hate him laughing at that. I'm actually laughing at the fact that Peacemaker referenced it in their show the other day. I don't know if you've seen Peacemaker on HBO, but
I haven't.
Check it out, man. I think you'll get a kick out of it. It's pretty funny.
Okay, yeah.
They referenced him, so I thought that was funny. You said that.
I do love when they bounce back, though. You know, the part of me selfishly was like, dude, his stand-up's gonna be so much better now. Like,
oh yeah,
when people hit bottom, dude, their art gets better. It's great. Who wants to hear what a successful person has to say? Like,
exactly.
I want a dumpster fire, dude.
Exactly, man.
So
yeah, I would say he put himself in quite the dumpster fire scenario. He
did. What's your biggest dumpster fire story? We talk about that on this show sometimes.
Oh man,
you think of any?
Man, I don't know if this will qualify, but this is something that scarred me forever, and I think this was one of the first times I was like, okay, like if this is as bad as it gets, like it can only be up from here. But probably in 2017, soon after you and I had met, I was doing a lot of reading for a lot of student films. You know, you go get your own auditions and these SCAD, these Emory, Georgia Tech student projects. And a SCAD student I'd read for, he booked me the part, and he booked me the day of. And that was like, you know, it was a huge deal for me. You book anything, it's just like, yeah, I booked, you know, like I'm an actor. And he gave me details. He sent me the script when I was at work, serving at a restaurant at lunch one day, and he sends me the script. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a look later and on the way. And it was just a rehearsal that he was calling me to that night. So after I finished working, I hop on a MARTA and I'm heading down towards SCAD to where this rehearsal is. So on the MARTA, I'm reading through the script and I'm running pretty late. And he's like kind of rushing me, but I'm like, there's nothing I can do. You casting me today. I'm coming from work type deal. It's pouring down rain, David. And I'm reading this script and I get off the MARTA station and I realize I'm about 1.5 miles from SCAD and it is like just downpouring. So I hop on an Uber or on like a scooter, one of the birds,
yeah.
And I am just cruising on this bird in the just pouring rain, and I'm obviously soaking wet. So I get to SCAD and I run inside. I'm just soaked, and the lady at the front desk kind of gives me trouble about getting in. I tell her why I'm here. I get to this classroom, and as I go in, I realized that this is a full class that we are running this rehearsal in front of. And they have a stage, like the whole scene is set up. All the other actors are ready to go, waiting on me. Place is silent. And it's a full classroom, bro. A full classroom, 30, 40 people, professor standing up. And they just turn to me coming in the door, and I'm just soaking wet, bro. And I'm just like, oh my God. When I tell you, man, that was the most embarrassing moment of my life trying to do that scene right there. I fumbled my words. If any of them in that class happen to see me on TV one day, they're gonna be like, no fucking way. That loser who walked in that classroom soaking wet and couldn't get a word out to save his life. But yeah, I was pretty that killed me, man.
So did the other actors in the scene have their lines memorized?
Oh yeah.
Did you have to read yours?
Yes.
Yeah.
And me being like, you just trying too hard. I should have just been sitting there just reading them, because it was like at that point, like, screw it, who cares? I'm not getting graded for this. You know, it's all about the guy who wrote it. And instead, I'm just sitting there trying to perform, like, you know, and I'm just like, what was that word again? Like, it was so bad, man. To the point the class was literally laughing at me at one point, and not in a good way. It was not.
They were laughing, like,
they were laughing at me, bro. It was bad. It was really bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a good one, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I think at that point, I literally was like, man, like, I know I'm better than this, first of all, but like, that was, it can't get any worse than this. Nothing else can happen that's going to be that bad. So it was a
Yeah.
good thing, man. It was, I took a lot out of that, but yeah.
Dude, what was the scene? What was
I was,
happening?
I was, it was me and another guy who was my partner, and we were interrogating a guy about a murder. So you can imagine me just like trying to like go at him like real serious, and I just like didn't know my lines, and it was bad, man. It was really bad.
So
But it
you're
was
playing a cop,
a bad
basically?
cop situation. Yeah, and I was the bad cop.
Yeah. The guy getting interrogated could have given you crap. Like, who's this guy who came in out of the rain?
Yeah, right.
Is this guy
Got a real cop.
Is this guy?
Like the Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. Man.
Yeah.
Like the guys on from Halloween, kids on Halloween.
Yeah. Dude, that's great, man. Dude, there's nothing worse than like being late to something that's like kind of important, or and then the realization that it's in front of people. Oh.
It's funny, man. You're gonna have a lot of my friends listen to this, and they're gonna be laughing at you saying that to me. I literally have something that my friends call Kelley time for me being late all the time.
Really?
Hey, yeah, like I'm on the way. I'm 10 minutes out, and they're like, "Oh, we'll see you in 30 minutes."
Dude, I'm impressed. You're on time for this.
I think I was 2 minutes late. That is for me, man. That's improvement there. So,
dude, I schedule comics on this all the time, and dude, comics are late as hell all the time.
Hilarious. Kind of like the music video, man. They show up when they won't. They show up.
Yeah, dude, that's great. So, dude, I've been dying to ask you about Righteous Gemstones. Like, so you play the past version of John Goodman, right? You basically play John Goodman's character, but when he was young.
Yeah, correct.
And you are. Can you walk me through like that character and what like I've only seen the first episode of this season. I haven't seen all of the ones that are out yet. But.
So I think the coolest part about that role for me, I mean, aside from the fact that I played a young John Goodman, because that in itself was just incredible. But
yeah, that's sweet.
It kind of set up the whole season. And that's something from a writer's perspective that I really understand now. And, the average viewer may not like recognize that, but my scenes, the 5-6 minutes I had of scene time, camera time, it really set up the whole season, which is really cool. That says a lot to me. Danny McBride being the creator and writer along with his partners, that character was very important to the show. So it meant a lot to me, that booking. And it was I loved the show. The first season was so good that when I got the audition, I was actually in Chicago working on a documentary for our production company, and it jumped off the page. Before you're reading for cop 1, lawyer 2, doctor 2. This one was young Eli Gemstone, and I immediately I had my brother. He was out in Chicago for the weekend just because so we could enjoy a new place together. And I looked at him. I told him, I was like, Bryant, like. I've got to lock myself in a room for this one. Yeah. And that's what I did for the next couple of days. And then I auditioned with my partners in Chicago in the hotel room, and I made it my own, man. The writing was obviously incredible, but I really made it my own. I said a lot of stuff that I felt young Eli would have, and it worked. But
so in making it your own, are you inserting dialogue is it on the page or just how you say it?
Inserting dialogue. Yeah, inserting dialogue, and even to the point, David, you hop into class. Like I'd love talking to you about this. I'll send you the original audition script I have versus my audition. And
yeah, no, I'd love to. So I'm going to be taking an acting class in a couple of months that Jake recommended. That's what Jake's referring to, and I'm so excited. I'm going to go to Atlanta and I have no idea what
you as a comedian, my friend.
What's that?
It's going to elevate you just as a stand-up comedian.
Hopefully, I just
will, man.
It's kind of freaks me out, so that's why I want to try it, and it's exciting,
and that's what we talked about. It is exciting, feeding those fears. But I think even if it comes down to you and just creating a joke out of it, mm-hmm. It's something great is going to come out of that for you. So I was really excited you texted me about that.
Mm-hmm.
But
so what you actually had in front of you in terms of the script was different from what you ended up representing in the rehearsal or in the audition.
So much to the point to where I got to set in Charleston, and we were there for filming my first day, and I was like, well, improvising worked for me in the audition, so I'll just do it in the scene. And I did it in the first couple of takes, and Jody Hill, who directed the first portion of the first episode, came up to me and he was like, "Hey, like let's just stick to the script. Like, let's just stick to the script here." But I'm glad I tried that. That's and that's what you got to do as an actor, bring your own flavor to something. And and then they're really good about that, man. They want you to do that, and they encourage that. But their writing is so good and it's so intentional. As ridiculous as it is, the comedy, it's still great storyline and great plot.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to trust your script and that, and then your writers. But it was a dream, man. It was such a cool set, and I'll never forget my first day. It was if you remember the dinner scene, when I took the slap there. Spoiler, but I was sitting at that. That was the first scene we shot, and I was sitting at that table, and I was so nervous. I was so nervous about to do the scene, and around the corner, they're setting up the camera and everything. Danny McBride peeks his head around the corner, and he just kind of gave me like a little like head nod, and it just relaxed me. It immediately was just like, I'm supposed to be here.
He just gave you a head nod, like
he just gave me a little head nod,
bro.
It was just like, yeah, and it was just so simple, but it was like I'm supposed to be here right now. Kenny fucking Powers just came in and give me a head nod. So, it was cool, man. It was a nod of approval, is what we'll call it. But working with them was a dream. It was truly a dream. It spoiled me. Like the role, I don't know if I'll ever have a cooler role than that. I just don't know if I will. But
that's cool though that you don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I agree.
Yeah, so he was involved because he's the writer and creator of that story. So he was on set, and you got to work with him.
Yeah,
that interaction. You also.
Yeah, Danny. They run the show, man. He's got the dream situation. Danny went to school with a lot of those guys, film school in North Carolina, and they've been working together since on everything. And he's the face of it, but there's so many. All of those guys are just geniuses, man. They're comedic geniuses. And it was a pleasure working with him. David Gordon Green ended up directing the second portion of the first episode. And this is something that this is the type of thing that I find fascinating, and I think it's really cool. He also directed. They have the rights to the Halloween movies.
Okay.
So David Gordon Green, who directed the second portion of a lot of my scenes, also directed the past two Halloween movies. And it's just
how crazy is that, dude?
That is just like, man, growing up watching those, like who would have thought, and I think that's the type of stuff that the film nerd in me comes out, and I'm just like, that's just the coolest thing to me, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, but they're a dream, man.
Danny McBride, is he a pretty cool guy off screen?
Coolest dude in the world.
Yeah.
Danny came up to me, my first conversation with him, and he looked at me directly in the eye and he said, "Thank you for doing this." And I was just like, "Thank you for doing this."
You're thanking me, bro.
Yeah,
like
thanking me.
I would do this shit for free.
He's just that type of guy, and I think it says a lot that he up and moved his family to Charleston. And like that says a lot about him as a person. Even though it's so simple, it's just like he didn't need all the glamour and the jazz. He just worked with his friends, and he was able to do that in Charleston, and still is. And the coolest thing, the whole cast or the whole crew, I'm sorry, everybody from makeup, wardrobe, they've worked on all his previous stuff. It's a family. It's a Rough House family, and it's the coolest thing to me, man. They're all just such good friends, and they welcome me like I was, been there for years. So
cool. That's like Danny McBride's crew, basically, all of his friends, and they've worked together on other. Have they worked on other projects? Were they involved with Eastbound and Down?
Eastbound and Down. So the majority of the crew definitely came together with Vice Principals.
Vice Principals. I love that show too.
So fantastic. And obviously you see a lot of the same actors, brought on the Righteous Gemstones as well. So he's really good about, working with people that he enjoys working with, and kind of, taking them along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
But it's deserved on their end. I mean, Walton Goggins, is there a better talent in the world? So, but Edie Patterson, they're just incredible. But yeah, man, it was really cool, man. But the last thing, we shut down for COVID, and we broke for a full year. And again, kind of the same thing you said to me off the bat, but he said, I hope you'll consider come back and doing this again. It's just like, man, I was doing a student film for $15 last week. You tell me when, I will be there. I will be there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was cool, man. They got approved for a season 3. So we'll see.
That's awesome.
If they decide to bring young Eli back. But
well, everybody watch it. who's listening to that. I mean, you're not gonna
Yeah.
get we're not gonna get a huge bump off of this show, but
Yeah, hey man, hey, every view counts. That's for sure. That's for
yeah,
sure. Give me the residuals. Give me the residuals.
yeah, absolutely. So dude, Danny McBride, dude, he is it kind of throws me off picturing him as a nice person because
Right?
his characters, I would expect him to be like, sup douchebag.
Yeah, but this is the end guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Just
just
like I
not,
picture him in
man.
the buddy comedies and just his hysterical
Right.
characters.
Man, I think that's the coolest thing, and it was able to have a conversation with him, and many times, you know, we'd be filming in a warehouse, and it was, you know, half of it they were doing my throwback scenes, and the other half they're doing present day scenes. So I was
Right.
able to have conversations with him, and then watch him go into work and just get in that mindset of
Yep.
Jesse Tombstone, you know. And you're right, man. It's just it was really, really like refreshing just seeing like this different person than what he's always portrayed on camera.
Yeah.
But he's a filmmaker, man. He's a film nerd. He's a
Yep.
film nerd, and that was really cool to see and talk to him about a lot of his previous work. We talked about, you know, love for Tarantino, which I think everybody who loves film does. But
Right.
it's just it was really, really nice and cool to be able to sit down and have this conversation.
But he's a big Tarantino fan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Found a lot of inspiration and a lot of different people when he was growing up, and you see it in his work in a lot of ways, for sure, for sure.
Did you talk to John Goodman at all?
Man, no, I did not. I never got the opportunity to meet John, and that's something that like it's kind of eating at me. But I think you know, after the COVID thing, they were really kind of very strict about, you know, who's crossing whose path.
Yeah. He's
And
he's a little older too now.
yeah, he is. Even though he's still killing it, absolutely
Right.
killing it in that role. But about the only thing I can take away from that is the fact that I can pretty much assure that he has watched my footage of how I was breaking the thumbs and whatnot, and that was satisfying enough for me. You know, it was like, all right, you know, that I'll take that. You know,
Yeah.
but hopefully one day, man, and I might write him a letter or something, give it to his representation to get to him. You know, just to say how much I've always looked up to him and whatnot. Because he has been, he's been a film icon for me for so long. You know, do you remember The Borrowers? You remember that movie?
The Borrowers.
Borrowers.
I'm looking it up right now.
This is an older movie, but so much to the point, man. Where I just like I didn't even know who he was when I was watching him as a kid, but he was always so compelling, and he captured a screen so well. If you haven't seen it, you remember that movie?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I can see a little GIF of John Goodman busting through a door.
Oh yeah,
I'm already laughing.
You should check that movie out, man. You'd enjoy that. But I'd reference that movie because it came out when we were so young, and that was like a big one for me and my siblings. And it just like I didn't know who he was, but I loved it. I loved it, you know, and I loved him, and it was really cool, man. It still is. People calling him Maniac Kid, you know, throughout the season.
The Maniac Kid, bro.
It gives me chills every time, and every time somebody calls John Goodman the Maniac Kid, it's really cool. It's really
Yeah, that's awesome. Who is have you met any other famous celebrities that
Yeah, man. A lot of my featured extra work in the past has been very involved in the production. You know, a lot of Woodlawn, for example, even back in the day. So Sean Astin, you know, everybody knows from Rudy. Yeah, man, and of course Lord of the Rings. But he was one that I was able to really interact with. Maybe not, you know, necessarily one-on-one, but he was very just, you know, let's throw the football type deal. And I was able to watch, even at a young age, I was able to watch him work and kind of watch his process and adopt certain things that he did and kind of, you know, just learn from him. But there's been a couple of that I've really kind of taken to on Gemstone specifically, Wayne Duvall, who is not going to be a household name by any means, but he is just a man of the craft. He's worked for so long. He's in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? You played the role of the mayor.
Yes.
Yes. Wayne was a pleasure to work with, man.
And John Goodman was in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yes, he was.
And he beats the shit out of George Clooney, I think.
Yeah, under that tree. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, isn't John Goodman the Bible salesman?
Yes.
Yeah.
with the
That's
iPad.
my dad's favorite movie in the world. Oh brother, where art thou?
Mine too, man. So I asked Wayne because he had a lot of just great lines in that movie. I had to ask him, I called my dad, and Wayne was kind enough to deliver a line from his "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" And it was just like, man, like these people
What
are
was
just
the
so
line?
for the life of me, man. For the life of me, I do not remember. And of course, if I heard it right now, I'd be like, that's it. My
There's a
dad.
lot of quotable lines. Like there's that real Southern, like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah. Oh, didn't Wayne Duvall's character, wasn't he part of the Klan?
Yes, he was a huge part of the Klan.
He was secretly part of the Ku Klux Klan,
Yes.
and then he busted the Soggy Bottom Boys.
Yeah. Damn, this is Soggy Bottom Boys.
Yeah.
That movie is legendary, man.
And he tries to get him in trouble, but he's got that real thick, like molassesy Southern accent. Dude.
Oh yeah, he was so excellent in that. But working with him, that was so cool, man. Because a lot of my scenes were with Wayne, and it even in a 2-week time period, 2 weeks on a film set feels like a lifetime sometimes. Those days are long. You're around a lot of the same people, a lot of downtime. So him and I, Timmy Nelson, we all got to know each other pretty well. And Wayne was just very, welcoming and taught me a lot just as far as, the ins and outs. But it was cool, man. And being able to, look back on those movies and say I've worked with those people is just like, it's mind blowing for me. But
yeah, absolutely. Dude, I fanboy out about celebrities so much. I love
certain people, man. I just can't handle it. Certain people, I do too.
Yeah.
Who specifically in your mind you kind of just like,
well,
the dream?
The favorite person that I've met is Russell Crowe.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Gladiator.
Absolutely, man.
He used to be like larger than life. He hasn't been in anything major in a while, but
he's still living off that Gladiator money. I don't blame him.
Yeah. I remember, I don't think I've told that story on here yet, but I met him in Asheville in 2019. My girlfriend at the time, it was my birthday, and she said, well, I'm taking you to Asheville. We're having this like Saturday night, nice night out, and we were going out to dinner. And we asked the waiter if you recommended anything of what we could do. And the waiter said, well, there's a rumor Russell Crowe is at the Golden Eagle, or is it the Gray Eagle? I think it's one of those two. It's a music venue, watching Slayer. It was their last North American tour. And a musician from the band Slayer was performing at the Gray Eagle. And I was like, dude, we're going. We gotta at least see if we could spot him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we walked in, and this is back when I was still drinking. So I was pretty looped on wine, but I don't know.
Alcoholic courage, man.
What's that?
It's the alcohol courage.
Yeah. Basically, I don't think I would have done this otherwise, but we walked into the door, and I don't know if he had just come in from like a smoke break or whatever, but I looked to my right, and there was this big figure right next to me. And I don't know if you've seen Russell Crowe recently, but he's put on some weight. And I looked at him, and I'm pretty good with faces. And I looked at him, I was like, oh my God, that's him. And I just reached out and shook his hand. I said, sir, it's so nice to meet you. Gladiator inspired my whole life.
That's so awesome, man.
It was so stupid that I said that, but then he looked, and my girlfriend Aubrey, she looked really nice, and she had like this cocktail dress on or whatever. And this was kind of, he looked at her and said, she inspires me right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, not exactly the coolest thing to say.
You just think that is the best compliment ever.
I was like, oh my gosh, Russell, my girlfriend's hot. Awesome. So then they went off, and like there was like a roped off area where he and his posse were like watching, like this VIP protected area. And then she didn't even really know a lot about Russell Crowe.
Right.
She's a few years younger than me. So she said, oh, David wants a picture. So she talked to like his handlers or whatever, and got a picture with the three of us. So that was really, but that made my life, dude. I was like, oh my gosh,
That's really where it comes from. I guess that's an obvious statement, but just like the movies that like you just love so much, it's those
yeah,
people, of course, you know. And
yeah. Gladiator stuck with me, man. I was like, dude, he's, you know,
yeah, oh yeah, man, that's iconic. That movie will forever, you know, never get old. It's just anytime it's on, and you got to watch Gladiator. It's one of the best movies ever.
is there a celebrity you'd really like to meet that you haven't?
Yeah, for sure, man. I pinpointing them would be tough, you know. Jason Bateman, I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of, to the point even where I did a couple of years ago. I did some extra work on Ozark, you know, just to be on that set and feel the energy of the set. And I thought it was fascinating that he was directing it while acting in it, and that was the first time I'd witnessed somebody do that. And it was such a big scene. I was, you know, at the closest point, probably 30 yards from him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think working directly with him would be really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's celebrity wise to work with. That's tough. Nowadays I kind of think of it from like a director standpoint. Like who would I want to work with as a director?
Yeah. Well,
you know?
you're in it now, man. You don't have to look at it from like you're separate from it. You're part of that.
Yeah. And I think that's cool. And Danny McBride would be up there on that list. So, you know,
dude,
that was,
he'd be up there for me too, man. Seriously, that's an A-lister for sure. And yeah, especially because he's a comedic actor.
mm-hmm.
Like I like, you know, those are the people that really like I just have fond I don't know, positive emotion associated with those comedic actors, especially.
Yeah.
Dramatic actors too, but you know,
right.
there's something about comedy
something different out of you. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like I really like when actors can do both. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio was always my favorite actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like back in high school and college, we'd like rank like who are the badass people.
Right.
Leo was always like, if Leo's in a movie, we're seeing it.
Yeah.
But I really like with Leo and he's, you know, doing more stuff with Jonah Hill and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like Wolf of Wall Street, I think was one of the first movies I saw of his where he showed another side and he proved that he could be funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because not all dramatic actors are even willing to try.
Absolutely not. They'll tell you comedy's that much harder than drama. It's just not natural where dramatic.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, man. I think, you know, it's an overthinking thing, you know, and then I get it, you know, it's, you don't want to try to be funny, but it's the question of, are you funny enough just being your natural self? And a lot of people, you know, don't think they are.
Yeah.
And also, you know, a lot of these actors growing up, you know, they go through these schools, these highly prestigious schools, and they're just taught drama.
Yeah.
So it's so much about the art of it and how serious you should take the work that, you know, nobody's necessarily going to comedy acting school, you know?
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it, you know, and then if you look at a lot of Leo's work growing up, it's, you know, he played a lot of really serious roles, and he did really well with them. But I applaud him the same for, you know, Don't Look Up. I thought he was hilarious.
Yeah, dude, me too.
He was funny, you know.
Me too.
There's no one funnier by themselves on camera freaking out. Like, there's no one. He's just so good at it. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Do you remember that movie pretty well?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes.
Man,
when he's like in his trailer, like, dude, come on, man, I suck. Like
8 goddamn whiskey sours.
Stop
drinking right now, man. He is so funny, and it's awesome watching that. And then Tarantino came out and said he was uncomfortable doing it, and it's just like you would never know that watching it. He killed it.
Yeah.
You know? So it's that man. He's a man of the art. But
yeah,
man.
Well, I think comedy's humbling for people because like you kind of like just bury yourself in all of like some of the funniest characters are like the lovable losers, like George Costanza character, a Larry David character. They're very flawed. They're selfish. They're down on their luck.
Relate to their flaws.
They're the bumbling fool finding their way. A lot of actors who maybe are polished don't want to like put themselves in that light. But
right. That's interesting. That's probably very true, man, for sure. You know?
I mean, I don't know what funny is. We try to find it on stage, but like, usually the stuff people laugh at are like the dumpster fires that I talk about, whether it's dating or whatever. But
I don't know if it makes people just feel better about their own situation, or like it's
I think
just
everybody feels that way deep down. So I think there's
yeah.
something authentic, like somebody willing to, yeah. Everybody's got a depraved George Costanza in them, maybe, or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah,
character you
man.
want.
It's just easier to laugh at other people's pain for sure.
Yeah,
But
laugh at my.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Have you ever written anything comedically?
You know, I've been involved in that process. Nothing that was my own original idea, but we as a studio, and all three, me and both my partners, all being at SCAD, we're around a lot of creatives. So we try to really incorporate, a lot of people in what we have going on, because not a lot of people do in Atlanta. We're one of the only independent studios kind of doing what we do. So we brought in a guy recently, and this is one of the projects I can't say too much about, but he's got such a good knack for comedy. It was slight adjustments that we were just kind of giving, and once you come to me with a comedy idea and I kind of hop on board with it, that's when I can have a lot of fun. But coming up with that original idea is tough, and that's something that I'd love to challenge myself to do, is come up with a comedic series and kind of run with it. But to tell you just the gist of what that one is, it's a workplace comedy around the bar.
Okay.
So of course, I can
based around the Buckhead, or inspired
yes.
by some of your Buckhead stories.
Yes, even to the point. Shout out Adam and Juan. They allowed us to film the pilot that we're using to pitch at Big Sky.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. So yeah. They've taken good care of me always. So that was cool to kind of bring both worlds in and go full circle there. But
yeah.
Yeah, so that's one we're really excited about. And McBride, that might be up his alley. So I'll have to talk to him about that one day.
I think comedic writing, it's not being forced, but just documenting.
Right.
Like a lot of stuff that, like I try a lot of stuff that doesn't work at all when I try to engineer an idea from nothing. But like the funny stuff that actually ends up working typically it's like something actually that happened.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, oh shit, let me write that down.
Absolutely.
So like I'm sure there's so many bar stories that like
endless
have a comedic angle. It's just having the eyeglasses on to notice it and be like, oh shit.
Right.
And that's
I've always been pretty good about. I've always been pretty good about recognizing those moments. And I have so many different ideas that it's just like, oh, this would be great in that story or this concept, So I'm an index card guy, man. I'll write down the situation and I'll store them. So that's something we've taken away from Spike Lee and kind of his process. But
Spike Lee uses index cards?
Oh, a huge index card, man. He will stack this big before he starts diving into his work. So and he just breaks it down. You character, headline it, and then just dive into a character, scene, location, setting. So
I wanted to nerd out for a second about the writing process. So how do you write? Like if you're going to write a script, how would you even start? Would you frame out the whole thing at the beginning? Would you have your characters first? Would you just start writing once upon a time on a sunny day? And
man, writing is so tedious, and everybody has their own process, which I think it's fascinating because I've been able to pick up a lot of different things from certain people. But for me, and this is something that I find is a rarity, not many people do. I love just straight diving into a first draft, getting something on paper, and it might be the roughest thing in the world. It might be a piece of shit, but of course that's a first draft. You're going to have 150 before it's all said and done. So it's not worth, just, grilling yourself over it. But for me, I just have to get it out. And then once I do that, that's when, you can put other people's eyes on it that you trust to give their opinions. And that's when you can kind of, ditch the fat, start cutting the fat and really evolving the characters and the story. But where I struggle and where I hit roadblocks is the characters. I'll be married to them. I'll be on such a roll. And then I'll be like, what do I want to name this character? That doesn't sound right. What about Megan? And that doesn't sound right. And I'll just end up, screw it. And I'll get back to this later. So
yeah, I'll go play video games or something.
Yeah. So I got to do something. I just got to draw a blank and just keep going. I hit roadblocks and they'll put you down a little bit, but
yeah, sharing it with somebody you trust is an interesting thing you said. Like I think that's something that gives me any anxiety, like a lot of anxiety. Like
Man,
I don't,
I have a circle for it. So
yeah.
I'm fortunate with that, you know, and they do the same vice versa. And then I'll give them advice on their work.
You also have
Uh,
to protect your idea because
right.
if you share it to somebody that doesn't appreciate it or doesn't
Mhm.
appreciate you or like what you're going for, or like
Right.
you got to be gentle.
And I've made that mistake. I've given it out too early when it wasn't ready to be read.
And then somebody shits on it, and then you're like, and then you don't
You
believe
start
in it
shitting on
anymore.
it. Exactly. And as soon as you don't believe in it, it's game over. That ain't
Yeah.
done. So
I don't share joke ideas until I do it on stage
that's
usually.
smart. That's smart.
Because I'll be like, no, I just have to do it. And I think if I do
Right.
it this way, I think a group of people in the right setting,
Mhm.
and then it'll bomb anyway.
So tell me this. I got a question for you as a stand-up, and this is something that I've always wondered. How much of it is, or do you have a show where you have a lot of material prepped? Do you ever go into those shows and it just ends up being where you only delivered 15% of the material because all this shit happened during the show that you were able to feed off of? Or is that
Some
different?
people do that. Some
Okay.
people rely. Some people do more crowd work and like engaging with the audience, and then they can just come up with something funny.
Based off of what's going on.
Yeah, and then that'll fill more time, and then maybe you ended up only doing 50% of what you had planned.
Interesting.
It kind of depends. If you're at a comedy club,
Mhm.
like Laughing Skull, that's one of my favorite places to
Yeah.
go. Great club. Or there's a comedy club up here where people are there for comedy. There's no distractions. It's you and the microphone. All eyes are on you. You're gonna do 99% prepared material, or that's what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do.
Right.
Like basically, I
Right.
know every word I'm gonna say. It's just a matter of like how long to pause or like how to say it to make sure that they're laughing when. And if a joke's not working right, or like pause longer and just
Right.
not. And but the material's all the same. Versus if you're booked on like a bar show, like and you don't really know, and like you're competing with TVs at the sports
Mhm.
bar behind, like you may have to yell at like that guy and be like, hey, asshole, like, or
Right.
I don't know, like, maybe
In
not call
order
him an
to
asshole.
get them more involved, you have to use different
You
strategies.
have to do crowd work to survive. If you just went through your prepared routine, you will
Mhm.
die because they're not even going to be listening. It won't be natural. Like it should feel like a conversation always, even
Wow.
when you're doing prepared stuff. But yeah. And in those situations where you're like at a bar show, if you can get them, then you're in your prepared material. But like you may be deviating to do crowd work a little bit if the
Right.
set, just because it's more of a rambunctious, crazy environment. And then your time might be up and you only got through 75% of your joke. Like that's happened to me before where I like, oh, I
Wow.
didn't even have to do these because I finished the time
Yeah.
before.
Interesting.
But I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I figured it was kind of, different each night you get up, maybe one night.
yeah, there should be an element of like you're there in the room
Right.
telling these people something that you actually, because it's weird. The audience can tell if you're faking what you're saying. Like they can
Right.
tell if it's real, and or they can tell if you're if in real, by real I mean like not literally lying, but if you're being authentic in the
Right.
moment, they can tell
Yeah,
the difference,
absolutely.
and they'll get uncomfortable if you're not.
Right.
So it's not like just not laughing. Like a bomb on stage is like people are like,
Oh,
ooh, like
that. Yeah.
everybody's like,
Yeah. It makes you
it's
uncomfortable. It
it's
really
not
does.
just they don't find it funny, it's that like they don't like you
They
as a
hate you.
human.
They hate you.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's fucked up,
absolutely.
dude. It's really,
Absolutely.
oh, but it's, it makes it that much cooler when they laugh. So
Exactly,
would
man.
you ever think about trying stand up, dude?
For the purpose of James Mack, I have just to be like, I mean, even outside of James, but James, that's something I would kind of want to venture with him. I'd love to go to his, of course, his first one, but yeah, as a person who says they, want to do things they fear, yes, I think that would be, very rewarding for me to get up there and try that.
It's so weird how they're similar, like acting and stand up, but they're so different. Like I am
Right.
horrified, and I don't even know like the first thing I would even start to say or do or how to do it in acting.
See, but you're about to find out. And honestly,
Yeah.
you doing that, maybe that means something for me too. We need to cross bridges there. So
Yeah.
I think that's something, man. Like, where was your first show?
Greenville, Comedy Zone.
Okay.
So Comedy Zone is a franchise. So there's several of them.
Hmm.
There's one in Charlotte. There's one here. I remember when I moved here from Atlanta in 2020, and I have an apartment downtown, and I was just walking down the street one day, and Comedy Zone, there was a sign for it, and it was a comedy club, and I was like immediately drawn to it. I was like,
Wow. Wow.
just because of Seinfeld over the years, Louis' show I always loved, and stand-up comedy. I don't know. It was always like that's a cool thing, and there's like a club right there, like
Hmm.
like you could walk to it, like a couple blocks away from here. Um, and yeah, so there was a friend of mine, Ellen Maloney. She doesn't do stand-up much anymore, but I met her at a bar here uh prior to me officially moving, and she introduced herself to me as a comedian, and that was the first time I met somebody that was like doing stand-up but not
Wow.
famous. And I was like, oh, so you could do stand-up. Like, what is that like? And
Yeah.
like, dude, I think you would be less intimidated if you knew like what an open mic scene is kind of like.
Yeah.
Like it's a random ragtag group of misfits that do stand up. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do stand up, but there's a lot of people, all great people, but
Hmm.
so like not all people have their lives together. I mean, obviously,
Right.
like it's not like
Right.
it's not like you're going, on a stage with like, thousands of people watching and it's got to be perfect. Like it's
Yeah.
very like it's not as scary.
It's an
Um,
organized shit show.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And there's
So
a lot
I've
of
never been to
really,
Laughing
and you'll
Skull.
see how
I need
bad
to go check
people
that
are.
out.
You'll see how
Yeah.
freaking bad people are, and that'll encourage you to do it too. Like, is
Right.
that even what is that? Like, what did you just
Yeah. I can
say?
imagine
Is that
that.
even a joke? Or are you just
That's
talking about
funny.
your fucked up life? Like, what? So,
Need
no
somebody to talk.
offense to any I mean, but the open mic scene is like that. It's
Yeah.
very. So there's nothing to
Right.
be afraid. I mean, you would, I'm sure, have just natural instincts that would make you decent at it
Wow.
out of the gate. So, you know,
Man, if it would give me that same thrill I got when doing improv, where it's just you're nervous as hell, and then you're so in that moment, you're so excited to be there, but you're also so ready for it to be over, and it's just like
yeah,
meeting in that middle and just running with it, and that's it's quite the rush. So I think it's something I would enjoy doing just for the hell of it, and kind of just put myself out there, and
yeah.
you know.
Well, the other reason you'd be good at it is like a big thing they talk about is likability.
Mhm.
You're extremely likable. You're like the
As are you,
night.
buddy.
Yeah,
I
you
was about
got.
to say that about you because you and Hutch, man, this is not something you
Well,
know this.
Hutch isn't likable. Hutch is a fuck
That's
dude.
true. He's a bit of an asshole.
I'm just kidding. No, I
Sorry.
love Hutch. I love Hutch.
That is something, man, and I don't say this to many people. You guys, man, as a bartender, you want to hate everyone. You hate 99% of the people who are getting drinks from you. I always loved you guys, man. Y'all were truly my favorite customers. Like I can genuinely say that. And so you always not you all made me laugh, man. Y'all were just funny together, and it was just. I remember like it was yesterday. You guys sitting under that bar that's no longer there because they blew it out and did all sorts of renovations. But you guys were always a pleasure, and I just loved you guys,
What
man.
was the
So
memory of us sitting there? I mean,
it's like a visual memory of I can picture you drinking a beer and Hutch just sitting next to you drinking the beer the same. And y'all were the only people in the bar.
yeah,
5:30. We had just opened, and I was just able to sit there and talk to you guys and just
yeah,
like enjoy it.
yeah,
And
dude. That my
that was
life
special.
was a shit show back then. It was
See, I would have never known that. You guys were the guys who had it all together, like had it all life
well,
figured out for me.
we had real jobs. We were like doing healthcare sales, and I didn't
Right.
know what I was doing. I had a new territory. I was stressed out of my mind. I was like, give me another beer. Like this.
Dude, you guys were wearing scrubs, so you were immediately official in my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
These guys are it.
You guys look like doctors. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, damn. This guy just came out of heart surgery over here.
Yeah. And then Hutch had his like stress in his own way. He was just burned out covering cases and like, I need to get away from the girlfriend for a day and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, man, that was a fun time. It seems like ages ago. It
It
seems
does.
like
It really does.
an eternity
It really
ago.
does. But that's cool, man. Like that's why I was so happy you reached out to me because like that was cool for me. That we were able to take that back and I was
Yeah.
able to build a friendship with you. Over
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not something I have with many people in my bartending years. So that's cool.
Uh-huh.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's real cool. I feel like the pandemic changed a lot. I mean, the pandemic that was kind of how I got into creative stuff with all this stuff. How did you handle the pandemic? Did that affect like,
Man,
did you have any sort of reset when it came to acting and like
yeah.
finding out really what you wanted, or like, did you have a real low spot with that, or?
Man, off the bat, Hutch. I just called you Hutch here, Baker. So now you got me thinking about both of y'all sitting at that bar.
We're basically the same person.
Yeah, man. So when I was in Charleston, it was March 2020, and we had just started filming. And it was day 2, and I was going to do a huge scene, and as soon as I showed up, McBride.
This is for Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, this is for Gemstones. Yeah, sorry, I didn't clarify that there. But day 2, and at this point, I was scheduled to be out there for a couple of weeks. And day 2, they came up to me right when I showed up on set, and they were like, "Hey, we're shutting down for COVID." You would have thought that they fired me and told me that I was never gonna act ever again. The way
that's you took it. That's
how I took it, man. It was why me type deal when the whole world, was obviously dealing with this, and I went into my freaking nice ass trailer on an HBO set, and I just bitched, man. Instead of preparing for this huge scene, which I was already prepared for because the nights before, but I should have mentally just been in the moment, and instead it was just poor pitiful me. Like, why me? I finally get this opportunity. They're sending me home, so it was a good lesson for me, to wake up and stop being an idiot and focus, for one. But I'll never forget. And I was calling my mom, I called my brother, and I just wanted to bitch. I just wanted to bitch and be like, why me? Why right now? But it was everybody. So like, it was selfish of me. It was stupid. And
dude, that would be really hard. Like that was like your easily biggest breakthrough so far.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I wasn't coming back, and that was the thing that I needed to sit down and really take a step back and realize, this is not the end of the world. You will be back, know. If anything, it allowed me a lot of time to do a lot of things. I was able to go get my motorcycle license and really ride a motorcycle. I was able to get in a really good shape.
Did you have to get a motorcycle license to do the scene that you had?
In order to do a lot of aspects of it, yes. Versus instead of my stunt double just doing everything and just it looking cool, but me knowing it wasn't me on the bike.
Right.
I wanted to be able to ride the bike.
But you have your own stunt double, bro.
Yeah, I had 2 of them actually for the wrestling scene.
For the wrestling scene and the motor.
Fortunately, this is something they were very surprised about because actors usually their background is not any sort of athletic background. So that was something when I was doing the wrestling scene, that was almost like, after 2 days of rehearsals with it and people teaching me the moves, it was very like natural to me. It was just like, this is like playing football growing up. Right. So they were like blown away that I was doing all these like the wrestling moves and whatnot. But my stunt double was incredible in just teaching me everything. So I'm extremely thankful for Kyle for that. But yeah, the motorcycle, man, it was, you do something, I'm so basic on it, just like kind of cruising real slow, pulling in. I'm like, oh, that probably look really cool. And my stunt double gets on there and he's just popping wheelies and just doing all this badass shit. And I'm just like, okay, let's use that footage.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was cool. Those guys they're some badasses, those stunt doubles, man. They take a beating for a living, but they love it. So
yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, it allowed me a lot of time, man, to really, focus and lock in, and something that I learned in between my times in Charleston filming. And I watched a lot of Danny's interviews and whatnot, and he did a podcast with Sam Jones, and Sam Jones, he's great. He's fantastic. Brings a lot of people I look up to on his show, and he said to him, he asked him because Danny's he had that huge comedic background, and then Ridley Scott offered him a role in a Aliens movie.
Okay.
And so Danny, of course he was like, that this is incredible, like Ridley Scott's the Gladiator. He directed the Gladiator.
Yeah.
So Danny was a little blown away. He's done all these comedy things, and Ridley Scott, this well-known director, is asking him to do this like serious role. And he met with him and it went really well, and he offered him the part. And Danny, what he told Sam was, there's 2 ways I could go about this. I could either say, what the hell am I doing here? This isn't for me. Or I could say, hey, Ridley Scott knows what he's doing, and he casted me for a reason. I'm supposed to be here. And it felt like he was talking directly to me for that,
Yeah.
because as a young actor, it's that imposter syndrome is so real. Of just
Yeah.
like, like I'm not supposed to be here. I don't deserve this. And that's not the case. You years and years of classes and hard work and giving up certain things that allowed you to the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. That imposter syndrome's interesting.
It's so real, man. It is so
Yeah.
real.
You feel like, am I a real actor? Or am I just,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Was I casted for this and this, or is it because I actually have some chops, And
Yeah.
you can't look at it that way. And like I said earlier, they wrote this role and they loved it. Like they were in love with the role. And that was one of the first things I learned when I got on set. Everybody was just like, you're the maniac kid. Like, what a cool fucking role. Like young
Yeah.
John Goodman. And that was just like that's awesome, man. That's so cool. Like what a blessing. But yeah, and so I took that. I listened to his words and I was like, okay, like I am supposed to be here. I am supposed to have this role. And I went back and I feel like I treated it differently.
Yeah.
And I'm, I think that showed. I really do. And so
the break you had, the time you had to like ponder it all, and
yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. It was good.
That imposter syndrome exists in comedy a lot.
Oh, I bet.
Like, are you funny? Are you not? You see it. Yeah, it's very strange.
How much of that, David, is it like, do you have nights where you just kill it and then, the next one, is it just like a wave, or is it maybe you get hot for a little bit? Like, how does that work?
I think it's like a batting average improving over time.
Okay. Slowly but surely, periodic.
And just everything kind of happens painfully slowly over time. And I say this as still a very new comedian. Like, I'm even uncomfortable saying that, like that I saying the word comedian sort of, but yeah, just slowly. It's really weird because what can happen is you can have a good show.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is early on. I remember this is how I would go. It would be like a 50-50. Like I'd have a good show and then I'd have a bad show.
Right.
Because you have a good show and you think I got it figured out. And then as soon as you feel like you have it figured out, you project that into your next performance and it comes across as maybe arrogance, non-likable.
Right.
The audience will pick that out immediately. And then you're like, I'm a piece of shit again.
Yeah.
And then that vulnerability and then the writing, and then you come out and perform again. You're just like, screw it, I'm going again. And then it gets better. And then you think you're the man. And then.
Right. Plummet.
So that's happened. And then you just hopefully get more used to, and just an instinctive feel for how things, like how you should be in the moment. And then you learn little tricks to, like, even if a joke bombs, like you can kind of, like if a joke bombs and you act like it crushes you, then it's going to get worse. But if you're like Johnny Carson was good at that. Like he'd have a joke that would bomb and he'd make fun of himself, but it wouldn't like totally crush him.
Yeah.
So people would laugh at him still. So yeah.
Interesting.
It's hard to even describe, really.
It's something I've always found so interesting, man, and just the whole process of it. So,
and the more you try new stuff, the less afraid you are. Like the whole thing is about like pushing down that fear. That's why being on stage as many nights of the week as you can is important.
Yeah. Building that comfort with it.
Yeah. And then you grow to love it. You're like, if I'm not on stage now, if I don't go on stage for like more than 3 days in a row, I am like, really, I need to get back on there.
That's awesome, dude.
So, yeah, I was actually wondering how you, as an actor, because like, what does work look like to you? Because like, there's only so many auditions you could be going to, or on set, how much, like running lines with people. Like, how do you stay active as an actor?
I'm pretty fortunate, man. I've built a pretty good community here of actors, and we're pretty good about, hitting each other up and saying, hey, I'd love to run a scene, even if it's at your house.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to go pay for a class. Let's just go run a scene and stay in the work and build characters. So that's something that I've been very fortunate with. A lot of guys that I'm really thankful for. I've met over the years. But man, it's I've got an unbelievable agency in Houghton Talent. They're so good to me, man, and I've actually got a couple auditions I got to knock out this weekend, and there's some of the bigger parts I've read for. So they keep me very involved, and that's really cool to me, because that was, you know, watching Entourage growing up. It was always like, oh, I want my own Ari Gold, but not quite like that. But you know, it's better, honestly. The relationship is there, so that's been really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. You know, you go a couple of days and you feel like you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
You know, and with what we do, you can never just sit down and you know, remain at that level. It's always got to be, you know, raising the bar and challenging yourself. So that's something I need to get back in the whole world. And you know, you get more involved in it here, and you start falling in love a little bit. I would love to do some classes with you. You know,
hell yeah, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to figure out. I don't even know what do they even do in an acting class? What do you?
You're gonna love it, man. You're gonna love it. It's uncomfortable, but it's such a good time. And then I imagine, you know, I asked you earlier what your first stand-up gig was and how that went. I imagine you remember that in great detail.
I do.
My first acting class after I moved here, I was staying on Hunter Barcroft's couch, and I was, you know, still kind of that stage of like, this is scary as shit. Like, I'm over here by myself. Like, nobody really thinks I can do this. I don't even know if I think I can do this right now. Once I took that first class, and it was at Alliance, when I walked out, man, it was very much like a scream, like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. And it was so nice, man. And then it just gave me the reassurance I needed to really push and get up the hill. And it's that same feeling that's still kind of driving me. So it's just, and you just gotta find it, and that's a tough thing to find. So I imagine you had a similar kind of feeling after that first time on stage, where it was just like, holy shit, that was fun. Like,
yeah, it was bad, but it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've seen this probably dog shit. Don't get me wrong.
No, it was a similar feeling. Yeah, it was surreal afterwards. It was like you did that thing that you always thought you couldn't do, or was so otherworldly, and yeah, I think you want to do it again. So yeah, that's cool. You had that same instinct and just like, yes.
Oh man. I'll have to show you where, man. But I walked down that street, and I just like, man, I think I might have cried a little bit. It was just so like reassuring, dude. It was just like, I'm not afraid of not knowing what I want to do anymore, because that is something, man, that I just feel like people struggle with.
Dude, that was really well put, what you just said. I you know, living in Atlanta, the time you knew me, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it really freaked me out, because by any other normal standard, I was fine.
Right.
I had a good job with a great company. I had money. I kept doing things that I thought would make my life make sense. Like, oh, they say, well, I'm still single right now, but I'll buy a condo.
Right.
That's the next thing. Maybe I'll get a dog. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. I think there's a lot of people that are just trying to do the next cookie cutter step of whatever people say you're supposed to do with your life. Maybe this relationship, maybe if I get married, that'll make sense of this. But a lot of those things won't if you're actually wired another way. Like if there's something you really need to be doing, there's no substitute. And I'm so glad that I found what I want to do too. Like, yeah,
man, it's the best feeling in the world.
That's the hard part, figuring out what it is. It's once you have that part, then it's like, it's just practical work.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, man, it's just because people, you know, they're weird about actors in general. Like, it's just, I tell people all the time, you know, my friends have heard it a billion times. It's just a job. It's just a job. And I'm fortunate that I love it, you know, and like, that's just the beauty of it. But
some actors view it as just a job.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think everyone should ultimately, you know, I mean, that's what it is. It's an art. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's an art at that, but I mean, that's just like, that's what I tell other people who are so just like intrigued by the idea of acting, and they're so just like curious, which I understand, because it's an interesting thing, and people love film, but that's just the only way I can really like kind of explain it to my friends. It's just like, this is a job for me.
Yeah.
I wake
Yeah,
up.
you're a
and go to work.
professional.
I got to
Yeah.
deliver, and if I don't, then I won't get another job. So,
Right.
and it's just, I feel incredibly, thankful that I found a job that I love, because I realize, and all my friends, and nothing against them, a lot of them are great and best friends in the world and extremely successful, but they may not just love what they do.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. It's a hard thing to find, dude. I fell ass backwards into it. Like, you heard my story. I was damn near a firefighter, and
Yeah.
next thing so. But yeah, man, we're some lucky guys, you and I, to have done this, and that's why I loved you telling me you just walked past the comedy club and you're like, that's fucking cool, and
Yeah.
and that's what it's all about, dude. Is finding something and being able to take the leap.
For sure, dude. For sure. Well, dude, we're almost at 2 hours.
Man, you could have fooled me. I've enjoyed talking to you way too much. Way too
No,
much.
I think there might even be a limit on the Zoom meeting, so we might have to. I didn't want it to cut off in the middle of us talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to ask, what are your long-term goals in acting?
Man, one of my favorite things ever, and Mavro, my partner, who's so much of my inspiration and gives me so much just passion for what we do. One of my favorite things ever is the still photo of Matthew McConaughey when he wins they announced that he just won the Oscar, and he just kind of looks up, and everyone around him is just kind of, just like, you deserve this. You've come so far, and you've waited so long for this moment.
Do you want to win an Oscar?
I want to win an Oscar, man. And it's not even just for acting. I don't know if it's going to be for directing. I'm producing, writing an original screenplay, because that is so much of, I think, for me, Good Will Hunting is my Seinfeld for you.
Yeah.
And just how they just wrote that with the understanding of, hey, we're not going to get, any acting jobs just handed to us. So let's go, create them. So I think, that would be in this industry, that would be my ultimate goal, is winning a Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. One of my favorite actors is Bryan Cranston, Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah.
There's a great interview that he had with Mark Maron on the WTF podcast.
Okay.
And Mark Maron asked Bryan, did you have any moments in your career where you were like discouraged because there wasn't a lot of work or whatever? And Bryan answered really quickly, no, there wasn't. And what he said was he loved what he did. He loved acting. And he said he didn't ever feel discouraged because he had no attachment to an outcome.
Wow.
And he said,
wow,
as long as he was working, there was no concern, because whether it's a commercial or Breaking Bad, you just took everything as it came. And he had a really free, positive. And I don't know. I don't know Bryan Cranston. I've never met him, or I haven't seen, but like, he seems like one of my favorite people off stage as well as on stage, because he's a fun guy. He's hilarious.
Right.
Very joyful in just his disposition. And I thought that was really healthy attitude for like a creative artist. Like, you're doing what you love. You've already made it.
Right.
In a sense.
Just in finding it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting you say that, man, because, a lot of people look at these, these celebrities and they think about how much money they have and whatnot. So many of those people went through years and years of struggles, and they love it. And they didn't care about the money at that time. So like, it's just like that's just a bonus on top of, your hard work. And so I think that's really interesting. There is there's no definite outcome that, needs to happen in order to be fulfilled in this. It's just, and that was my goal day one. It's just, I just want to work,
Yeah, you're a working actor.
Yeah, that's it. I just want to make a living.
It's cool to have goals, like high-minded goals. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're necessary.
They are. I need to start making some for myself. But yeah, they're, it's cool just to be doing it, man. That's
100%,
awesome,
man. 100%. So I thank you for doing what you do, bro. Like, this is cool. This is cool, man. Like, this.
No,
is
yeah, I said at the beginning, I said I'm super proud of you for doing it. And it's cool to have those moments, I think, when like for you, like the skepticism like of your dad
Hmm.
for the day you told him to like now you're on HBO. Like what has that been like? Has it been a really cool like
I went home. I went home and watched the episode, and
with your
it
family?
wasn't like a, check this shit out. It
Like,
was a
yeah,
moment
suck
I
it,
was happy to
dad.
share with them. Yeah, it's man. I know what I said about him, and that that's all factual, and he'll tell you the same. But my parents are the most supporting parents in the world right now, and my dad, even when there were times when I was failing out of school, when I didn't know what I wanted to do, he would have jumped in front of a car for me. He's just that type of dude. But that was a big thing for me, was going back and inviting some of the guys who, Brandon Eastlick, Chase Turney, Avery Wombles. I grew up with them. I've known them since I was 7 years old, and like, just telling them, they're always honest guys. And I would tell them in Tuscaloosa, like, hey, I think I'm gonna move to Atlanta and go be an actor, and they'd be like, an idiot, like, you joking? Like, and it's just like, I get it. I get it. That was a fair reaction to the things that had happened in my life leading up to that. But it was very rewarding for me going back and being able to watch that with them. It was very rewarding. So love my parents to death, but told you ass.
Yeah, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's great. We can kind of, I guess, wrap it up here. I usually have the guests say like all their social media stuff. I'll link it too, but
Yeah. I think Jake G. Kelley, straight up EY. That's it, man. Jake G. Kelley.
On Instagram.
Instagram, yeah, that's about the only one I'm kind of active on right now. So,
do you do any stuff with your production company or anything you want to shout out there? Like,
absolutely, yeah. Steal the Sun Productions on Instagram as well. Give us a follow, man, and we got a lot of good things working right now. So keep an eye out for us for sure.
okay,
but, yeah, Steal the Sun, STEAL the SUN Productions, plural.
Okay, awesome. You got anything on YouTube as well?
No, not currently, man. Not currently.
Okay.
Not that I know of, at least. If it's possible, I do, Baker. And I don't want y'all to see it, so don't go let me on YouTube.
No, it's all good. And I don't know if this is even allowed. I was gonna as a part of this episode, and we'll see if I actually am able to. But can I have a clip of the show that
yeah.
I can find it online and edit it myself. I don't know if that's allowed for.
I will.
Reasons.
Yeah. So if you tried to record it on HBO, you wouldn't be able to. But I can send you a link that you would be able to go screen record it and use for it.
Okay. Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome because I wanna shout you out and say, dude, I know that guy.
My dude, I appreciate it.
Future Oscar winner.
I appreciate it, man.
You gotta
let me know your schedule. I would love to come over there and watch one of your shows, bro.
Yeah, dude, I'll be in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta from time to time, so I'll definitely let you know. And I want to do more. Man. I want to do more stand up there because that's kind of the next spot where I'd like to kind of do more.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, man. You let me know. I'll be there.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Talk to you soon.